In this video, you will learn how to integrate ChatGPT with UiPath using HTTP request activity. I will show you step by step. So let's start now. I have already created this one, but let me show you a quick demo and then I will show you from scratch how to do step by step. Let me click on this run file, and here we have an input box where we need to enter a prompt. So I'm going to ask here, provide 5 test data in a tabular format which includes ID, name and country. Okay, so this is for getting the test data. Let me click on OK, and then it will send a request to the OpenAI API server, and then it will get the response from that GPT 3.5 model. And then you can see the response. We have ID 1 2 3 4 5, name, this is, and country. So this is the data. Same thing I'm going to show you step by step so that you can also do that if you have this use case. Okay, so let me click on OK, and now let me delete everything here. Okay, let's take here one sequence and let's rename this one. For this we need the completions, that curl command, so that we can send a request to API. So first we will log in into this platform.openai.com, and then we'll go to API reference. Click on this, and then we have option making request, or you can go to chat and then create chat completions. Here you can select GPT 3.5 turbo. So I'm going to show you using GPT 3.5 turbo, and this is the curl command that we are going to use. You can also get it from making request. Okay, so let me first copy this. You can copy it from here and write down in this notepad. And now you need API key also, because we need to replace this here with the API key. For that we'll click on personal, this account, and then click on view API keys, and then here we already have. If you do not have an API key, then you need to click on create new secret key, and then you can copy that one. I already have this one available in this notepad, so I'm going to now use that one. Now let's go to this UiPath Studio. So before dragging and dropping any activity to this sequence, let me show you something which is required. So you need to go to imports, and then you need to import few namespaces like Newton soft.json. This you can import. This you can see here, this is already in the imported namespace list. Second, you can import this Newton soft.json.linQ. This is very important, otherwise you will get an error. Second, you need to go to the manage packages, go to all packages, and then here you have to search UiPath.web API.activities. This one you need to install. Now let me take here HTTP request and then click on import. Here we need to enter the curl HTTP request, that command that we have copied from platform.openai.com. So we'll copy this command and we'll paste here, and then click on validate. Now this shows that it is success. Now click on import. Okay, now it will take all this data here from that command. You can see this is the endpoint. It has already taken, and then let me increase that timeout to 60,000. Sometime it takes some time to get the response from OpenAI API server, so we'll just increase the timeout to 60,000. Here we have a request method post. We are going to use post request method because we are going to post a prompt to the API server, and then we'll get the response from there. So we'll be using post here, accept response as a JSON. So we are going to use JSON format here, and then in the header we have content type application/JSON. Authorization we have bearer OpenAI key, API key, and then parameters we have post. Now this OpenAI API key we need to replace with the API key. So either you can directly paste that API key here, or you can take it from variable. So I'm going to use currently this variable. You can also take it from orchestrator credential. Let me first remove this and then click OK, and then let me go to this API key, copy this, and here we'll be taking one multiple assign activity. Paste this inside the double quotes, and now we'll be creating one variable which will hold this API data. We'll create str underscore API key. Okay, now go to configure, type here plus, and then write this variable str underscore API key. Now just scroll down here, scroll down, and then in the authentication drop down select OAuth 2, and then here in the access token we'll be using str underscore API key. Okay, and then click OK. Now after this you can see this is already set, this is done, this is also done. Now we need to pass this data. So where we'll be passing this data? So we need to pass this data. Let me show you. In this options you can see one body, and then there is a body format. You can just change this body format to JSON, and then in the body you can see it accepts only string value. So how can we pass this value here? So for this one we have to create a JSON object so that we can store these data to the JSON object, and then we can serialize this one, this JSON object, and we can convert to the JSON string. Okay, so we need model GPT 3.5 turbo, and then message which holds array of JSON data, which is role users, and content. For example, say this is a test, and this will be replaced by a user questions, which will be like using input box. So let me use a input box first. Input box, input dialog. Okay, let me put here input dialog, ChatGPT prompt. In the dialog title we'll say ChatGPT prompt, and then in the input label it will be enter your prompt here. Okay, and then we'll have a text box, and then this data will be stored in the this variable. Let me create one variable str underscore GPT prompt or GPT questions, something like that. Okay, create this one. Now this questions will be passed to this content. Whatever we will ask, this will be replaced with this value. Now we'll click on add here, and then we'll create one JSON object. Why this is required? This is required to store this data, this format of data, because we will not able to directly pass this data in this body of HTTP request. We will not able to pass here. So we'll create one JSON object, control K, JSON object, enter. Now go to variables, and you can see this is set as a variable type string. We need to click on this and change it to newtonsoft.json.linku.j object. You can also search it from here, browse for types. You can type here J object, and you will get here J object, which is a part of newtonsoft.json, and then newtonsoft.json.linku, then this one. Click OK. Okay, we have created this variable. Now we need to pass here. So see here, if we have only this and this, then we can directly do it like this: JSON object of model, and then we'll pass here a value, right? But now this time we have a data in the JSON array, right, which will be assigned to this JSON property, this one, this messages. For this, what we'll do, here we need to create a new object with the property model, messages and temperature. Now in the messages we'll have a JSON array where the property name will be role and then content. For that we have to write a code here. So open in editor, we'll write here J object. It means this is for JSON object. You can see class Newton soft.json dot link you dot J object. So this will be a JSON object dot from object, open close bracket, and then here we'll write new with curly braces, open and close curly braces. We'll write here model dot model equals to, and we are going to assign a model to this one. So let me first click on save, and then let me take this also from currently from variable. If it is required to change that model, you can change it from, you can change in this variable, in this here assign activity, or you can also take a input dialog box so that dynamically you can assign a model, the GPT model. For now I'm going to create here control K, one variable str underscore GPT model, and this will have this model. Let me copy this, and now let's go to this, open here, and then we'll be putting here dot model equals to double quotes plus plus again double quotes two times, right? And then inside this we'll be passing str underscore GPT model. So this GPT model, whatever we are taking it from assign activity, will be passed to this value of model property. The property name is model, and then the value will be assigned this one. So first is the model, second we have messages. So let's take this temperature here, so comma dot temperature equals to, this will be 0. So I'm going to put here 0, not 0.7, because I want the exact response which I need. Now comma, and then there is another property which is messages, and then equals to. Now you'll see here inside this there is a JSON array. So now we'll write here new JSON array, which will be J array, and then open close bracket, and then inside the JSON array we need to create a JSON object. So we'll write here new J object. Okay, so inside this property we need to create an array where we'll have a JSON object. Okay, so new JSON object, and then open close bracket, and then inside the open close bracket we need to create a new JSON property, and then we need to assign a value. So it will be new JSON property. So it will be a J property, same as like the J object, J array, like this. So it will be JSON property, and then open close bracket. So property name will be, we need to create like this, role. So it will be role, comma value. So currently the value is user, I'm going to pass this user, and then we need content. So again, if you see, so this is another property name, and this is the another property value. So we'll write here new j property, open close bracket, and this will be a content and the value is again double quotes, double two times, plus plus double quotes, and then let me just zoom it if you can see it. I hope you are able to see this. Now inside this we need to pass our questions, that is str underscore gpt prompt. Whatever we will enter in this input dialog box will be passed to this content. Okay, now after this we need to pass a comma here. Okay, now we will click on save. Now we have this JSON object. Okay, let me delete this model because now this is not required. We are directly creating this JSON object here and passing everything here, and this GPT model we are taking it from here. Let me just move this up. So first it will take the API key and then model, and it will be assigned here. Now we need to pass this JSON object to this body, and the body format will be JSON. So we'll write here JSON convert dot serialize object, open close bracket, and here we'll need to pass the JSON object that we have created here, this one JSON object. Now what is the use of this serialize object? Using this serialize object we are going to convert this JSON object to the JSON string so that API can accept the data. It will be in the JSON format. It will be passed as a string like this. Now we will go to this outputs and we'll be getting the response in this response content. So we'll click on this and control K str underscore output response. Okay, create this variable. You can see this is the string variable. Now let's take here one write line activity so that we can store this one. Now let's reach to this step first, and then I will show you how we can get the specific data. Let me show you one by one. So let's go step by step here. So I'm going to ask here provide 5 test data in tabular format which includes ID, name and country, and click OK. Now we are assigning this value to the JSON object. Now if you see, currently in the JSON object the value is like this. Let me pass through this HTTP request. Okay, now we have data in this output underscore response, and you can see we are getting the output in this content. It's in the JSON format, right? So we need to get this data which is inside this first choices, and then we have messages, and there is an array here which has role and then content. Let me first show you here. So the data is like this, choices, and then we have messages, and inside that we have role and then content. So we need content. So for that, let me stop this. This deserialized JSON we need to use here. Why this is required? This is required to convert the JSON string data to the JSON object. So whatever data that we are getting it from here, it is coming as a string, the JSON string. Now we need to convert this to the JSON object so that we can get it here. Okay, now we'll pass here str underscore output response, and then we'll again get this data back to the JSON object. So either you can store this in the JSON object again, or you can create a different. Now if you see, we need to convert this to the JSON object, which is stored as an object only. So let's convert to this JSON object. Let's select this object to the JSON object, and then we need to take here one message box, so that I can show you. So based on the previous response you saw, we need to pass that JSON object which we created from here, J object output. So we'll write here J object output, and then inside that we have a key, basically the property name as a choices, and it will be a 0, and then messages, and then inside that it is like a content. Let me change this to the it is not like this, it is choices. Remove this messages, and then let's run this. Okay, so provide 5 test data in tabular format which includes ID and name, like this. Click OK. And you can see here we got this output, ID and name. We have this data in the tabular format. We have 5 data, right? Click OK, and by this way you can make an API request. You can integrate ChatGPT with UiPath using HTTP request activity.